Western Final, baby. Bring it on. How good is that? It's First and Now, the official BC Lions podcast and radio show on 730 CKNW, presented by World Vision Canada, official charity partner of the BC Lions. Visit bclions.com/worldvision to become a supporter. Matt Baker, Nik Kowalski, and to my left, Bob the Moj Marjanovic, who, listening to some of the recaps audio-wise, was that one of your most enjoyable calls, the BC Lions taking down Calgary in the Western semifinal?
Man, there have been quite a few, but that one ranks up there. There was a lot of dramatic moments in that game.
Yeah.
And hopefully we did them justice. But yeah, it was a fun game to call. I know Julio had a lot of fun, obviously. So it's a lot more fun when you win. So yeah, it was a fun game to call.
Yeah, Lions 33, Stampeders 30. Robert Carter Jr. takes back a 95-yard kickoff return. By the way, the first kickoff return in BC Lions playoff history. So at that point, Nick, you're thinking, okay, here we go. Start ordering up those smoked old fashions for the Hotel Sask next week. But not so fast. The Calgary Stampeders were also an 11-win football team. You knew they weren't going to go away. Quite the eventful third and fourth quarters after that special teams major.
Yeah, we over here, we know never to count out big play VA because that's exactly who he was down the stretch, right? And some incredible plays to Jalen Philpott in the fourth quarter. I still can't believe that Jalen hung on to that one triple coverage to lay it down the fourth quarter there. But
I thought that was a TJ interception there.
So did I.
Second, yeah.
That was Deontay, though, was it not? Deontay.
No, Deontay was there, and so was TJ.
Yeah.
Deontay was with the hit.
Anyway, but to your point, yeah.
Adrenaline's running on my end of things. I'm running 5 video cameras and I'm texting about, okay, here's our plan for a Sean White walk-off. Here's our plan for potential overtime. Like all these different scenarios are running through your head, right? So got to plan ahead for those things. But based on the content we captured, the Sean White walk-off field goal, I think we nailed the coverage of that. And but first and foremost, Sean White had to nail his responsibility and send the Lions into the Western Final.
Yeah, and listening to Sean White, his interview after with yourself and Julio here on 730 CKNW, Moj, kind of stuck out with me just how grateful he was being, talking about how he loves having his family in the stands watching. And he's like, I know we have the best special teams in the league, and good special teams will pay good dividends at this time of year. And that was kind of a cool thing to hear.
Well, I think when you have been in the league, as a veteran, as Sean has, you appreciate things a little bit more, right? Like, when you're 23, 24, you think this stuff's going to happen every year. Every year you're going to be in the hunt. Every year you guys are going to be right there knocking on the door, whether it's the Western Final, the Grey Cup, you name it. But when you've been around for a while, you understand what it takes and how difficult it is to get to those situations, and you appreciate it. And you appreciate the little things, like, having your wife there, having your newborn there, having your family there. So you kind of savor it a little bit more as you get older.
Yeah, and the special teams overall, though, just dynamic, right? Both Seven McGee and Robert Carter Jr. have 50-plus yard kick returns, both contributing there. And then this game might not go the Lions' way if not for, unsung heroes, Adam Auclair, Kieran Poisson coming up with that forced fumble in the punt return late in the fourth quarter. And even throughout that quarter, Carl Meyer was constantly flipping field position, right? There was one punt at the start of the quarter where Carl launched a 65-yarder like he has the capability of doing. But the key with that one is it was net 65 yards. There was 0 return yards on that, right? There was maybe one instance this year, maybe in Hamilton, where the negative of that is out kicking your coverage. But when your kickoff team or your coverage team can do their responsibility, even force a turnover like they did late in the game, just huge, right? And I think that's the special teams is why the Lions won this football game.
It's a good point. It's interesting because so many times when we break down games, it's the offense, the defense. Well, there's a third facet that plays a critical role in football games, and it's specials. A lot of times, and hey, I'm guilty of it just like everyone else, you kind of gloss over it. You don't make that big of a deal, but clearly, as Nick mentioned, I think it's probably the biggest reason the Lions won that game was the work of their special teams.
Even so, going back to that special teams fumble forced by Auclair or Poisson, whoever it was, got the hand in there first.
Auclair.
Thank you. That's a situation where the Lions are pinned back pretty much inside their 10, right? That's a 63-yard punt for Carl Meyer because that's a minute 29 left in the game. You think, okay, Calgary's going to get it with okay field position and potentially run it down for Rene Paredes to come in and walk it off. As we know, the game was far from over at that point, given on what happened. But Carl Meyer never ceases to disappoint, like you say, Nick.
Unsung heroes too, and the thing
Never ceases to impress, I should say. You know where I'm going.
The thing that I'm encouraged about too is obviously looking ahead, this team's going to have to go on the road to a West Final again. And you look back to 2022 and 2023, close losses at Winnipeg, low scoring games. And in each of those Winnipeg wins, the Bombers scored a special teams touchdown, right? And I think over the past 48 months, you've seen this unit evolve completely, right? You mentioned that the return touchdown, that's a thing that that was the first kick return touchdown I've ever seen with the BC Lions since I joined here. So those things just weren't happening a couple years ago, and now they are. And I think it's an testament to Corey McDermott, how he's running that unit. Guys like Patrice Rene often making contributions. Jackson Finley, I think, has been a very underrated teamer on the coverage game too. So revamping that unit, it's paying dividends so far.
Well, I think the big thing when you talk about special teams, you're not really reinventing the wheel, but what you want is investment from your players, and you need somebody to make those special teams feel just as valuable as offense or defense. And whether it's your coaching staff and whether it's, 2 or 3 leaders that you have on the team. I mean, you think of guys like Jason Araki and David Mackey over the years, guys that would, make special teams, a unit that, hey, this is your group. It's just as valuable as offense and defense, and give those players on specials an investment. And, I think you're seeing that. And you have guys like Patrice Rene, and there's a guy who's been exemplary on special teams this year. So when you have those type of players, I think it bodes well for you.
Yeah. And the first kickoff return touchdown since I think Ryan Langford in 2019. Rather forgettable season, but there you go. We're going to tee up Saskatchewan, obviously, measuring themselves up against the best in the West all season long. Saturday, we'll do that. We'll get into some of the key areas, the key matchups that we're intrigued about, like we did last week, teeing up Calgary. We'll get to some trivia. I'm guessing some Saskatchewan-based trivia.
You got it.
There you go. But we're going to, before we spend a couple of minutes saluting the outstanding noise in the crowd, have to address it. I think it's fair to say, Moj, in order to be victorious, in order to punch their tickets to the 112th Grey Cup in Winnipeg, the Lions are going to have to fix a couple of things, particularly on offense.
Well, yeah. I mean, offensively, the last couple of weeks have been unable to get the yardage that they'd like on first down, as they always talk about staying on schedule, to use a Pete Carroll term. And that is, you want to be in these 2nd and 3s, 2nd and 4s. And the Lions for the last couple of weeks just haven't been able to get the run game going. So they've faced a lot of 2nd and 9s, 2nd and 10s. So, it's going to be interesting to see what type of game plan Buck Pierce develops here this week, in the sense of trying to gain sufficient yardage on first down to make second down manageable. So that's a key. The offensive line, I think, can play better. I was talking to their coach, Paul Charbonneau, during practice. It was interesting. He used a really good term, and we were kind of kicking around X's and O's. And he said, you really want to create a conflict of assignment. And what he means by that, defensively, you got to make them think, right? What am I doing here? Am I doing this or am I doing that? And once you have teams thinking a little bit, now they're not reacting, now they're thinking. And you do that through various ways. I mean, you can do it through motion, you can do it through your play calling, you can change launch points, attack points, you name it. But I think that's something that will be, if you had to narrow it down into just one phrase, what the Lions offense has to do this week, I think that's a great phrase. The phrase, they have to create a conflict of assignment for those Saskatchewan defenders.
On a consistent basis too, Moj, right? Because I think there were instances of that, but just not consistently, right? You think of Nathan Rourke's first rushing touchdown. It's an RPO play where Sean Peterson Jr., the defensive end on Calgary, is in a bind, right? He has to go with Butler, he has to go with Rourke, and he freezes for a second. And once he freezes, often in those scenarios, it's too late. And the other note about that play too is I don't think this is any coincidence, but Keon Hatcher and Justin McInnis are paving the way for Nathan Rourke moving forward, and that's an investment in your receivers to the blocking game. And the coincidence that I don't think exists is that a Buck Pierce coming from Winnipeg, where you think of those offenses is with number Rashid Bailey, Drew Wolotarski, Nick Dembski at times are always blocking downfield, especially in these critical games. And when you have your 16,000 or 1,600 yard receiver, sorry, Keon Hatcher, blocking downfield for a Nathan Rourke touchdown, I think those are the things, those are the buy-in that you need, especially going against a Saskatchewan defense that I think physicality is one of their strong suits.
Couple minutes here. I wanted to bring up the game breaker, Justin McInnis, and you know where I'm going with this. Arguably, probably one of the biggest plays of the Lions regular season. Go way back to August 7th in Hamilton. Remember, the Lions were looking to take a late fourth quarter lead, faced a 3rd and 14, and Nathan Rourke had just enough time. He hit Justin McInnis in stride, extended the drive. Lions end up scoring. The Ticats end up tying it, but BC, of course, prevails in overtime. And here, the first play of that winning drive for the Lions, a run to James Butler, 2-3 yards. So you're thinking, okay, maybe they're just going to play for overtime here. The clock's ticking below 20 seconds, but big completion to Berryhill, and then McInnis getting a 28-yard reception, I think it was, and going down with 3 seconds to go. Good to have those game breakers.
Yeah, and the ball placement on that McInnis ball too, because I was looking at the all 24 of the footage, and when Nathan throws that ball, there's a hole in the middle of the field, but Justin hasn't entered it yet, right? And you've seen Justin oftentimes kind of bend that route into the middle of the field, but what Nathan does is kind of places it ahead of Justin. And I think that that placement and that split second decision from Nathan allows Justin to, corral the ball and absorb the collision that's coming from with Sheldon Arnold, the defensive back on Calgary. Because if Justin bends more across the field, I think Arnold either collides with him, bang, bang play, and there's a less chance that he comes down with that ball, or even it's intercepted, right? So that's a huge time play, or big time play. And like you said, whenever you need to play, it's going to be Justin McInnis more times than not.
Well, I think the big thing for me in that play is situational awareness as well. And, this is something that Buck Pierce talked about post-game with our coaches interview, brought to you by Tim Hortons on CKNW. How do you like that manic term right there?
Nice plug.
Good. Bulls and Bears.
But one of the things that he talked about was, this is something they worked on. It's situational football. We practice that type of stuff. And, it's happened twice this year. It happened with Katoy in Montreal getting down with 1 second left. And it happened with McInnis in this game getting down with 3 seconds left. And if you recall, a couple of years ago, Dom Rhymes with a big catch in that game against Winnipeg at the end of the game.
Gravy Bowl.
Tried to get to the end zone, failed to do so. No time on the clock. Had he gone down, the Lions would have kicked the field goal, won the game, and had home field advantage that year in the playoffs. Instead, he tried to score, and as a result, that was the end of the game.
Could do a whole other podcast on the butterfly effect if he just goes down there. It's Nick and I have talked about it a couple of times out late on the road, but yeah, situational football, that's what it is. We'll continue to tee up the Western Final in just a minute, but first, over 26,000 on hand, and it's a tribute to everybody in the organization. You say this all the time, Moj. Organizations win championships, and that mentality of the BC Lions was on full display last week from everyone in game day operations. Jordan and his crew, who doubles as our executive producer on the podcast, Kowalski, Jill, Alicia, Tyler, everyone on social media, Carolyn, Cody, of course. The crowd was outstanding, and it was loud in there. I don't know what it was like for you up in the booth in the late stages when the Lions were trying to close it out, but noticed very quickly as it was getting more intense just how great and loud that crowd was.
Yeah, clearly louder on the field than it is where we're located in the booth, but it was nice to see all those people that were there that were engaged. And what did I say at the end of last week's podcast? Nostradamus Moj. What did I tell people? I said, if you show up, you will not be disappointed.
Yes.
And what happened? Great football game. A lot of excitement, a lot of back and forth momentum swings. It was a very, very entertaining day of football at BC Place.
It's the advantage of this having home field too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watch Vernon Adams Jr. down the stretch, holding his ears, trying to get the play call in right at the end, and it was an electric atmosphere too. What word did Vernon use, Moj, in this? It was cracking. He said BC Place is going to be cracking. I think,
I
right?
think that was it.
In his
I
press
think
conference the day before the game. So another cool moment too, just while I have a moment. Dave
Yeah.
Dickinson and Buck Pierce at the podium day before the game.
Yep.
I like that. I think they're moving forward.
Hey, let me throw something to you, and I mentioned this during the broadcast. You guys were both down at field level. Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was because it was a playoff game. But there was a lot of it was a very hard fought football game. But at the end of it, to me, I don't think I recall a game where I saw so many guys walking to the guy they played against and congratulating him and giving him a hug or whatever. It just seemed like there was a lot of that after the game. A lot of people coming up and playing, talking to the guy they played against. You tell me, maybe I was wrong, but it just seemed like it was a little bit more than normal that game.
Yeah, no, not wrong at all. I mean, I'm in the middle of that because I'm scrambling trying to get Nathan to go do his big interviews, of course, on the field after a win. And so I'm kind of right in the middle of that. And you're right. An example, previous week in Saskatchewan, Nathan comes up to me post game. Have you seen AJ Ouellette? And I'm thinking, oh yeah, they're Ohio Bobcat buddies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times it's guys who played together in college, played together on teams in this league.
Well, I mean,
you're right.
Adams, Dom Rhymes,
Adrian Adam Bighill,
Adam
right?
Bighill. So yeah.
No, you're definitely right there. It's always kind of the cool thing. It's tough because one team's walking off disappointed, but there's still
and it was the
around.
type of game I think where the Lions know that hey, they took advantages of the opportunities they had, but it could have easily gone the other way, right? So it was a very hard fought game and one that you looked at the guy beside you or the guy that you played across and just said, hey man, hell of a game.
Absolutely. And the dual coaches, that's props to TSN and the CFL for pushing those. We'll do that again Friday. Buck Pierce will be with Corey Mace at Mosaic. Moj will be on hand for that as well. And
Port Moody's Corey Mace. Got to throw that in there.
That's it. Port Moody. Yep.
Yeah. And you know what? I'll tell you what. I know he's the head coach of the Saskatchewan Roughriders and Lions fans.
Solid guy.
Solid.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy's guy. Like, you know what I mean? He's just a good dude. He's one of those guys that you hang around for 5 minutes and you just feel like, I like this guy, right?
This league is in good hands with the new young breed of head coaches. You've seen Ryan Dinwiddie have success in Toronto. Buck, of course, building something here. Corey Mace off to a good start. Just to name a couple.
Mark Killam.
Yep, absolutely. First and Now is presented in part by Hullo Ferries, proud island transportation partner of the BC Lions. Go easy, go Hullo. Heading to Regina. We'll break it all down coming up on First and Now. First and Now, brought to you by Main Road Group, your roads, your team, connecting communities and driving our legacy. BC Lions, Saskatchewan Roughriders. Saturday, Able Auctions pregame show, 2:30 here on CKNW. Moj and Julio Caravetta. Fifth all-time Western final meeting between these two West Division rivals. There's a bit of a breakdown I've written at bclions.com with some of that playoff history. Well, I kind of hit on it off the top, Moj. This Saskatchewan team, like the Lions, a bit of injury adversity at various points early in the season, but beginning to end, probably the measuring stick in this division. And if the Lions want to get to the Grey Cup, they're going to have to knock off the best. Simple as that.
You're going to have to bring your A+ game, something that the Lions haven't done the last couple of weeks, even by their own admission. There's a lot more there. You're going to have to bring it this week against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. They're a very good football team. They're a very well-coached football team, one that is that loves to create turnovers on defense. They don't turn over the ball on offense in the sense that, Harris plays a very solid game. So for me, the Lions are going to have to bring their A+ game if they want to walk out of Mosaic with a win.
Yeah, and the offense doesn't do anything like super special in particular. It's more just well-rounded, right? And it's not even just the 12 guys in the field. I feel like this Riders team is deep as they can be in the CFL. We even experienced that in week 21, playing against most of their twos down the stretch and being in for a good game down the stretch there. But looking at their injury report, leading receiver Keyshawn Johnson did not practice today, so I think that's something to monitor because he's been out since week 19, so it's not some kind of load management circumstance with him. although Deontay Myers, another 1,000-yard receiver they got, is back. So, and then in the secondary too, right? This we were talking about it a bit with the physicality and blocking and all those things. Roland Milligan, Marcus Sales, Devon Campbell, Nelson Lacumbo can bring the boom too. So I think this Riders defense, they're going to bring the physicality, and it's up to the Lions offense. You think guys like Xander Horvath may be contributing more in this game because they're going to have to match that level.
The one thing that I wonder about, and I might be off on this, but it just kind of sticks out for me, is that Saskatchewan really hasn't played a meaningful game in an entire month.
Yeah.
Whereas the Lions have been basically playing playoff football for the last 4 or 5 weeks. So I'm really interested to see, and you know, I would probably say 80% of this is the fact that, or let me rephrase that. I'd probably say there's like a 15 or 20% chance that maybe Saskatchewan comes out a little rusty for the first quarter, but it's the potential is there. That's what I'm trying to say is that, like I said, the opportunity is there, I think, for the Lions to maybe get off to a good start and put Saskatchewan on their heels a little bit, because I honestly believe it's going to take them probably a quarter at least to get up to speed, because just like I said, they haven't played a meaningful game in over a month.
Yeah, October the 10th, clinched first place with a 27-19 win over the Toronto Argonauts. So since then, a walk-off loss at Winnipeg, and of course losing to the Lions on the final night of the regular season, with BC, of course, having everything to play for. It was either win and finish second or lose and go cross over to Montreal. So yeah, that's Moj, that's definitely a factor. In this league, we've seen it both ways. We've seen teams clinch early and then not perform good enough in the division final.
Look at Toronto a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Montreal last year.
Yeah.
I was talking to Christian Matt about this very thing because he was an Alouette player last year, and same thing. They clinched with like a month to go and had a couple of miscues, had a bunch of turnovers that got the Argonauts off to a good start, and they couldn't recover in time. So, yeah, it's going to be amped up in there. I think something like only the third Western final since the 60s or something in Regina. It's
they've only won 4 Grey Cups.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
So
throwing that out there.
yeah, and it's going to be amped. They sent a thing out earlier today that there were over 30,000 tickets, so it's going to be a sellout, 34,000 in the Jewel of the Prairies, as Moj calls it.
Can they move the Grey Cup game there?
A couple years.
Give Stu a call. He'll yeah. By the way, before we get going, instead of getting going on that, I get it's a storyline, I get it's a thing, but we're dealing now with the typical cliche playing in the cold weather.
Yeah.
Like it's going to be what, -4 on Saturday, something like that. It's not like Saskatchewan's played in a frozen tundra all year long, right? Like, do people not realize that part? This thought that the Lions can't win in cold weather because they're a dome team, so to speak.
Well, I mean, it's an adjustment, and it's a little easier to adjust if, you say, well, they haven't played in cold weather all year long, but guess what? They're going to be there. Well, they've been there. The team's been there for a couple of weeks now. I mean, they're walking around in this weather. They're going to their Costco. They do have Costco's in Regina, I hope. They go to the Costco in Regina, right?
There's one, yeah.
You're going shopping, whatever. Like you're walking around, so you're kind of used to that weather. You get acclimatized to it. Whereas if you fly in the day before, you go to the hotel, and the next day you're kind of waking up, and you might have a walk, and then you're off to the game. If one of the things I would do, honestly, if I was Buck Pierce, I would tell my guys, all of them, you know what, tonight go out for a walk, just so you get used to the weather a little bit and how cold it might be. So just prepare. And -4 is not stupid. It for us, it's not stupid. Maybe somebody from the deep south or California, Arizona could be, but for us, it's fine.
And that's part
I was just gonna say too, like, look at the game last. Don Rhymes was wearing a hoodie under his sweater at BC Place the other day. I'm like,
I didn't catch that.
I'm like, Don, it's not that.
Well, he's from Florida. So
Plus, he lives in Ottawa too. I didn't figure that one out.
True.
But I mean, for some people, for some guys, that it could be freezing at -4 Celsius.
Yeah, I mean,
it is freezing, but you get my idea.
Yeah, it's all it's going to be talked about, but at the same time, hey, might make an upset victory all that more sweeter. What was the coldest game you ever played in at UBC?
1987 Vanier Cup in Toronto. Varsity Stadium. Apparently, it was the coldest day in Toronto, a November day in Toronto since like 1953. And we just got throttled by McGill. And the reason why is we didn't have a running game. They did. Had that game played, they moved the game to Skydome, I think, the next year. Had we played in Skydome, we would have beat them. Because, in a situation like that, you make it into a track meet and you take them out of their forte, which was running the ball. But instead, it was a cold, miserable day. And they just came out and ran right over us. And they had two guys that would go on and play in the CFL, and Michael Souls, the late Michael Souls. Iffel as well was the running back. I think he played with Edmonton for a bit. So they just pounded it. But that was the coldest day that I'd been involved in as a player or a coach. I remember a day one time when we were at UBC, we played Manitoba and the late Frank Smith. We had the walkthrough practice the day before, and we played right at that Pan Am Stadium, which is right next to Princess Di, Lady Di, whatever stadium they call that now. There where the Bombers play. And it's right next to it. And it was a beautiful October day. It was probably like 18 degrees. And I'm like, I go, Coach, this is going to be awesome. Frank was like, you watch, this can change like that. And he snapped his fingers. He goes, it can change. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, whatever, right? It's going to be like this tomorrow. Honestly, that night we came out of the restaurant, it was snowing. The next day, it was like snow sleet coming in sideways at like 25-mile-an-hour gusts. So it can flip. So that was a really bad one that I remember. But from a media perspective, doing the sidelines in Regina for the Montreal Edmonton Grey Cup.
03.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Oh my! It was so cold that when they came down to do post-game hits on the field, the mic was crapped out that we couldn't do it. So those three games really come to mind in terms of like cold games.
Yeah, 23rd Vanier Cup. Oh, McGill 47, UBC 11. There you go. Michael Souls, the MVP trophy. So
I wanted to bring it up, didn't you, Banks?
Well, I will say this. Coach Frank is smiling down at you telling all these.
No, he's still pissed about
doing
it.
the impressions. No, yeah, he still can't get over it.
He's up there right now and he's looking down. What the hell happened?
What's going on? All right. We're gonna still tee up this matchup. We're gonna get into sort of the meat and potatoes of some of the key areas we're looking at, because like we're talking about, the Lions are gonna have to execute better in certain areas. Probably talk about what has to happen up front, and we'll wrap up the program with Nik Kowalski's world famous trivia. We go on touchdown against the Riders trivia like we did last week with Calgary.
Potentially.
Okay. All right. No spoilers. No spoilers. First and now, presented in part by Hullo Ferries, proud island transportation partner of the BC Lions. Go easy, go Hullo. Lions Roughriders talk continues in a matter of moments on First and Now on 730 CKNW. Lions Roughriders at Mosaic Stadium, Saturday Western Final. We've talked about it. The only instance in history where the Lions played a Western Final game in Saskatchewan was actually game one of a best-of-3 series in 1963. The Lions won that one, lost game two, won it in game three at Empire Stadium en route to their first ever Grey Cup, which they, of course, fell to Angelo Mosca and the Hamilton Tiger Cats at Empire Stadium. So there you go.
Was that year or the year after? Willie Fleming?
That year, yeah.
Do you know what he averaged per carry?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the hit in the Grey Cup by Mosca. Yeah, we could look this up. But
I want to say like
you can't
9.8 or
Media Guide,
10.4, something like that.
His average is box score?
10 yards a rush, basically.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Insane.
That's easy.
Insane. Yeah. So, a historic matchup in some respects, if you take away the best of three. Of course, where we record in our studio here to the left of us, there's a picture of a jam-packed BC Place in 2004 Western Final, the crazy overtime win, that Paul McCallum missed field goal. I know you were there that day, Moj. In fact, it was another Western Final against the Riders where you won the 50-50.
Yes, sir.
That was a great story, was it not? Before we get into the matchup.
Well, I bought some tickets, so I went and visited one of our sponsors, Vancam. I was doing the pre and post game shows.
Vancam Freightways?
Vancam Freightways. So I was in there. Actually, that's where I bought my ticket earlier, and I checked it when I was in the Vancam suite, and lo and behold, I had the winning ticket. So I was just like, completely freaked out, went claimed it. And then I had to claim it by the third quarter. Something was like 44, 43K, I think. And then I went back into the booth, and Rick and Julia were there, and I showed them the check, and they just freaked out. Mo just won the 50-50. And I got to show them the check and thing. But the funniest thing was I was walking to do the post-game show from the stadium over to Edgewater Casino.
Yep.
And two things I remember from that. Number one, I barely watched the second half. So when Glenn Suter joined us right off the top, I said, Suits, you're going to have to carry me because until Baller and Julio get here, because I didn't watch the second half, right? So
yeah,
he pretty much carried the interview. But the crazy thing was, too, is I was walking from BC Place, and between BC Place and Edgewater Casino, my phone rings. The Canucks were playing that night across the street at Rogers Arena, and it's Tom Larscheid. And as you know, Tom and Shorty had won the 50-50 at Rogers Arena one night. And Gunner's on the phone, Moj, welcome to the club, right? So, yeah, those are a couple of things that I remember, but it was a lot of fun, though. So, yeah, anyway. Hey, by the way, any news on who won the 50-50 in the Blue Jay? It
was 22 million or something, right? Yeah, no, I didn't see that. Yeah. Jay Janauer from Global was telling me his brother went to one of the games and bought a bunch of tickets. So,
yeah. That would be quite the haul.
Crazy.
Is it 22 or 11? So is it
you win half of 20. Yeah, you win 11, the jackpot, so to speak.
Only 11,
22.
so yeah.
Yeah, well, I'd take that.
Yeah.
I'd take that. All right, Nicky, if we're talking about specific areas here, battles, things to watch, what are you thinking?
Well, alluded to it a bit that when you look back at these teams' three matchups this season, it's hard to take away much from them, given that Nathan Rourke didn't play in one of them. Trevor Harris played 5 total quarters in those games. But one thing that stood out to me, and especially if you're on the road in the playoffs, you cannot afford to get behind early. And the Riders did a really good job this season against BC of getting first quarter points. They averaged 10 points a quarter in the first quarter of the season against BC. And we even saw that in week 21, where the Lions had a good opening, or not even opening drive, good opening play to Aiden Eberhardt to get into the end zone. But then the Riders with Trevor Harris responded quite methodically to tie it up and take the lead, actually, because Sean White missed the extra point, which kind of gets into my next point, is the kicking game in this game. There's we were listening to Moj, I heard, Jamie Nye and Britton Gray on before, right? Talking about who the Riders are going to have at kicker this game, because Brett Lawther obviously has struggled immensely this year. He's a veteran kicker and didn't play in week 21, but those are two areas where, I feel grateful every day to have Sean White on our side, but in playoff football in a close game, you really want that kicker on your side, and that's something to monitor what Saskatchewan does.
I think it's going to be Brett Lawther. I don't think really,
Yeah.
I understand, the gamesmanship by Corey Mace, but here's the thing. I mean, you're talking about a kicker. Yeah, he's looked good, but it's one game, right? And you're talking about playoff football, the pressure of playoff football. As much as Hughes might be the kicker of the future, coaches love to go with players that they can trust. And yeah, Brett Lawther struggled through the course of the year. I think he kind of cleaned up his game a little bit at the end, but I think they have confidence. There's more of a trust in Lawther than there is in Hughes, as good as Hughes may be or could be. But to me, it always boils down to who do you trust? And right now, I think that's Brett Lawther.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. But it's definitely been a talking point all season long. That guy's been under the microscope every time he's lined up to kick a field goal. So we talk about it a lot, the importance of upfront line of scrimmage, but it's valid given how the pass protection wasn't up to snuff for the whole game. 4 sacks of Nathan Rourke, I think it was. And they're going to have their hands full with the likes of Carney and Micah Johnson and what has to change, Moj?
Well, again, as we talked about earlier, and I love the phrase that Coach Paul Charbonneau used, the offensive line coach of the Lions, and that is a conflict of assignment. You got to create doubt somehow, right? I was watching the game against Calgary, and I kind of watched it from my coach mode with my coach hat on. And I remember seeing this one play where Keon Hatcher ran across the formation, kind of was a jet sweep fake. And I think they did it a couple times. And on both of those occasions, it really took a bite out of the defensive line on the pass rush. The Lions had a little bit more time to throw the football, and they had nice completions. So to me, it's about doing that. It's about somehow, some way, creating that doubt on the defensive side of the ball to help your offense, right? If you're a static offense, if you're a north-south offense, if you're not changing attack points, if you're not having enough motion, then it's a lot easier for a defense to tee off on you. So to me, that's a big key in this game for the Lions offensively.
I'm looking forward to the cat and mouse game on the other side of the ball too,
Yeah.
because I think recently what you've seen in this Lions defense, part of their turnaround is you're seeing Jackson Finley blitz often from a safety position. You're seeing Deontay Williams come off the edge often, right? He had a touchdown earlier during this win streak. He had a big pass break up on first down in the second quarter last week against Calgary. And, by PFF's numbers, William came 5 times last week against Calgary. But the caveat is a guy like Vernon Adams Jr. takes almost 3 seconds on average to throw the football. Trevor Harris, meanwhile, is notoriously known for a 3-step drop back, ball out of the hand, right? And the numbers back that up. Trevor Harris by far led the CFL with 2.2 seconds to throw the football. So there's a good cat and mouse game going on, right? Are the Lions going to send guys knowing that the ball's going to come out early and, just go cover 0 and let the best man win? Or are the Riders going to bring 7-8 guys to protect if the Lions send 7-8 guys too? So Mike Benevides, what he's got scheming up, I know a lot of different personnels we've talked about with this defense, but that's a huge area in my game.
Well, I mean, one of the keys for me is the push of the interior line. You're always going to get kind of guys coming in off the edge, but if you want to get a guy off his spot, the closest way to do it is a straight line, right? And that's basically right up the gut. So you're going to need a push up the middle to make Trevor Harris uncomfortable and collapse the pocket. And to me, that's going to be one of the big keys in this game, because everyone talks about, how great the secondary's been and all these interceptions and how great the defense has been. But again, a lot of it is stemmed from how well the defense has been able to pressure the quarterback, right? So to me, that's another key in this game. And he gets the ball out quick. Yeah, I get that. So that means trying to collapse that pocket as quickly as possible, getting your hands up. And the other thing, too, is especially if you're going to play man, tackling is going to be paramount to your success. You can't allow a situation where you have a one-on-one situation. And I'll give you an example. And I talked about this actually, last week with one of the coaches. We were just talking about game planning personnel, and I'd seen Markel Lee, who I think is an outstanding run defender for the Stampeders, but you get him in space and coverage, and that's not his forte. And if you remember the game, or if you remember that play in the game where Butler caught the ball in the right flat, and Markel Lee was there one-on-one with him, and Butler just gave him a move, and the next thing you know, I think it was like a 15-yard gain, right? So
yeah,
to me, one of the big keys in this game is going to be tackling. If you're going to play man, never mind man, zone as well, but particularly when you play man, tackling is going to have to be a big part of your success.
And you got to drop pressure too, right? Because in these 3 times these teams played each other this season, there was 7 sacks total between the 2 teams, right? 2 of the superior offensive lines, probably the 2 best offensive linemen in the league right now, in Jamarcus Hardrick and Jarrell Broxton on both sides. It goes without saying, but you need an A+ game from Matthew Betts, and I think you got pretty damn close to near one on Saturday.
Betts and Levi,
but especially when Betts he's a pest and he's stirring it up. Even at halftime, he's stirring it up. I think that's Matthew Betts is one of those players who thrives off that kind of stuff, right? And so the more Betts is involved, not even on the stat sheet, but just mixing it up, drawing with offensive linemen. That's when he's at his best. And I think if you can take Jamarcus Hardrick off his game, Logan Ferland, their other good offensive linemen, it's going to make it easier.
Yeah, and you talk about the chess match with the receivers and DBs. I'm intrigued on the other side. I see Roland Milligan limited at practice. Marcus Sales, our old buddy, he's back full. So would expect them to have a couple of reinforcements back there after their most recent meeting where a couple of those guys were not yet back. So these Lions receivers, we've talked about McInnes and Hatcher and the ability to stretch the field, and Nathan Rourke using the RPO to his effectiveness. So time of possession, stretching drives, and red zone production, which is something the Lions were perfect, 2 for 2 against Calgary. The Stamps on the other side were 2 for 4 in the red zone. That's going to be, for me, a big area where this game is won and lost. All right, trivia time. We'll wrap it up and have some fun ahead on First and Now on 730 CKNW and wherever you get your podcasts. Final segment of First and Now, Lions Riders here on 730 CKNW. Able Auctions pregame show, 2:30 Pacific. Kickoff at 3:30. Hamilton and Montreal to start it all off at noon our time. Very quickly, Hamilton, Montreal. Montreal.
Yeah. I think Montreal, to me, is a very, very formidable foe. I mean, you look at their record this year, so much of that was because of injuries, but I'm calling Montreal by 10 points over Hamilton.
I think it'll be closer. I think I'm interested to see if Hamilton can move the ball on the ground with Greg Bell because it looks like Mustafa Johnson's still a ways away from
Yeah.
playing. So that interior of the defensive line in Montreal is banged up. But yeah, they're definitely the hotter team.
Yeah, I guess for the sake of argument, I'll go Hamilton.
Hamilton 4-6 versus playoff teams this year.
That's right. You said it. That's right.
Just saying.
Well, I was even telling you, Baker, like with Davis Alexander in the East and Nathan Rourke in the West, the future of this league at quarterback.
We're in good hands here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Davis played a great game too there against Winnipeg. So there you go. And we'll talk about it all next week in some form, whether that's here in Surrey or perhaps in Winnipeg. All right, couple more minutes for trivia. What do we have, Nick?
You guys are right. BC Saskatchewan playoff history.
Oh, boy.
I'll give you guys a bit of a warm up here. So this dates back to 1988. I know no dice on finding some box scores or receiving box scores from the 63, 73, and 74 games. So from 88,
Eliminates me.
so from 88 to 24,
Before you were even born. Yeah.
got a couple playoff games here. Can you name me the 7 quarterbacks who would have started in those games from 88 to 24 for the BC
Matt
Lions?
Dunnigan,
Dunnigan is correct for 88.
Casey Printers,
That's 04.
Dickinson,
06.
Lule.
Buck Pierce.
Pierce is 08. Lule is 10 and 13. You guys are missing 07 and 24.
07 was Jarius Jackson.
Jerry's Jackson,
Yeah.
yep. And then 24, obviously.
Yeah.
Vernon Adams. Jr.
Vernon Adams Jr.
Right.
But you guessed right. In front of you guys right now are the touchdown scorers in those games.
From
So
88, say again, from 88 to
24. And you have them in chronological order here. So on your left is 88, and the next game would be 04, 06, 07, 10.
Larry
13.
Key.
Larry Key is incorrect, Moj. You're not starting hot.
Ryan Thelwell.
Ryan Thelwell is a correct
He
answer
opened the 04 Western
for
Conference
04.
scoring.
Sean Millington.
Moj.
Am I
Incorrect.
going like 0 for 20 now going back to last week?
Well, this
It's
is
okay. Keep
well,
guessing.
04. Yeah, think about it. 88, and then it goes from 04 to present day. So
Oh, 4.
Millington was the Calgary killer.
Antonio Warren.
Antonio Warren is another correct answer for 2004.
Yeah.
Let's go Moj.
Ryan Phillips.
Ryan Phillips
Had
is
a
one of
6 and
two defensive players.
Fire away, Moj. Go for 2 or 3 here.
Done. Quarterbacks. What the heck? Let's go Vernon Adams.
Vernon Adams Jr. did not score a touchdown last year.
I'm 0 for 20. 20.
Last year, Javon Katoy.
Javon Katoy opened the scoring last year in the Western semifinal.
Keon Hatcher.
Incorrect.
I'm 0 for 22.
Justin McInnes.
Justin McInnes is the other guy from 2024. You have positions in front of you, Moj. So 88, you have a running back, a receiver, and a D lineman.
88.
06,
Key was
you have a
good.
running back and a receiver. Both scored twice.
But that's the fuzzy decade from 2000 to 2010. That's fuzzy. Markel Mallet. I'll just throw that name out there.
It's a good pull, but
Joe
think
Smith.
2013, I want to say Stephon Logan.
Stephon Logan had 2 touchdowns in 2013. I heard Joe Smith from Moj.
Yes.
Joe Smith is the only
should've.
player on this list to have scored in several years. So he scored in 06
Nice.
and
Yeah.
he had 2 in 06 and 1 in 07.
Led the league in rushing one of those years.
Yeah,
too.
remember that he got
Yeah.
cut the next year?
Yeah, they brought in Charles Roberts. Yeah. So
The running back in 88 is the only player on this list
I
to
know
have
this.
3 touchdowns.
Anthony Cherry.
Anthony Cherry. I wrote down Tony Cherry, but we'll
This
accept
is where updating the media guide files in the offseason kind of comes in handy.
So 2010, you guys have 2
88
receivers.
receiver?
Yep.
Let's go Ray Alexander.
Incorrect.
David Williams.
Incorrect.
Matt Clark.
Incorrect.
Mike Trevathan.
Incorrect. ES.
Enos Slaughter. No, that's a baseball player.
Close.
Let's keep it current.
2010. We have a
Eric Streeter.
Eric Streeter. There you go, Moj. That's the
2010,
receiver.
Travis Lule.
Travis Lule ran one in 2010. 2013 is another. There's another quarterback, not a starting quarterback.
Thomas DeMarco.
That's a great pull. It's Thomas DeMarco.
Yeah.
D. Lyman in 88.
Yep. Fumble recovery.
Quick Parker.
Incorrect. He had a game though. I was walking back.
88. Initials.
WB. I don't know if you guys would know this. name.
WB.
Played a bit in Calgary too. I was looking him up.
Okay, we'll come back to that one.
06
What other
receiver. 07 receiver.
receiver? Paris.
Paris Jackson scored twice.
Yeah.
In the 2006 Western.
What other year receiver?
07.
07. G-Roy.
G-Roy is
Yeah.
the correct answer from Jarius Jackson. Came into Buck or sorry, that was 08. Oh, G-Roy scored in 07.
Walter Ballard. Walter Ballard.
Ballard. There you go, Moj, in
It
1988.
just came back to me.
Right.
You guys are
House. All right.
You guys are missing a fullback from 2008 and then a receiver.
Sheila Mbala.
Incorrect. And then you're missing a receiver, two receivers in 2010.
Two receivers.
Claremont.
Incorrect. Jason
Stephen
Claremont.
Black.
Stephen Black is correct.
Yeah.
Jason
Yeah.
Claremont scored the winning
Yeah.
touchdown in that game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
In overtime, in double overtime. He had another receiver in 2010.
Initials.
You guys are going to kick yourself for not getting this one. It's a pretty iconic play in BC Lions history.
Oh, Manny Arsenault.
Manny
Hail
Arsenault,
Mary.
Hail Mary.
Forced overtime. Yeah.
Then in 08, you're missing a fullback.
Yeah. Who's this fullback now?
Initials.
It wasn't Lumbala.
Nope. LG.
Lyle Green.
Lyle
There we go.
Green scored in
Sorry.
Former Toledo.
Yeah.
What are they? The Rockets? Golden Rockets? Something like that?
Mud Hens. No, that's baseball.
No, that's baseball.
Well, actually, I'm just looking at the list right now. 04, we're missing a receiver.
I said we had Felwell.
And Antonio Warren.
Um,
Another touchdown reception from a receiver.
Chris Brazel.
Chris Brazel is
There you
correct.
go.
There's the list.
Not bad.
Some big names, Walter Ballard is maybe not unsung hero.
Man, I went like 0 for 24 before I snapped my slump. I should have maybe played for the Blue Jays.
Well, next week we'll do touchdowns against Hamilton or Montreal.
Maybe we will.
Maybe.
Well,
Why don't you do like trivia, like name players that played for the Riders and the Lions? That would have been a good one.
that would take a long time to source.
Well, just the tough
Just
names.
Pick your wheelhouse of years and
Who do you got for this year? Do we have any
Bill
over
Baker, Jason
Mark
Claremont.
Marcus Sales, yeah.
There's a couple right there.
Noah Zer still in the Rough Riders, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so, yeah. Oh yeah, there's always going to be crossover.
Here's one
like
for
we
you,
were saying.
Nikki. Name the rider.
Here's the contact info for Marcus
The
Sales.
rider
Yes,
offensive lineman. He was a guard and he was also their place kicker.
What year?
70s. Way before you were
I'm
born.
eliminated.
Think about that. They had a guard who was their place kicker, Jack Abenchan.
Well, I always love when you see Julio Caravetta and it says QB/kicker/punter.
Yeah.
Guard slash kicker. That's like tremendous. Can you imagine like Woodruff kicking field goals for the Lions? But that's the equivalent. I mean,
Well,
Jack Abenchan kicking
The
for the Riders.
emergency kicker, I'm pretty well. It would be Carl Meyer, obviously, but I think after that it would be Javon Katoy, and that would be quite a sight for your tight end looking receiver kicking field goals.
Get the big cat out there. All right. All right. What do we got planned for the broadcast? Pre-game, halftime. I'm sure we'll hear from some special.
Yeah,
guests.
pregame. Obviously, with having the media availability on Friday, hoping to get Corey Mason, Tommy Harris, Trevor Harris, as well as, of course, Nathan Rourke and Buck Pearson. Hopefully, another body from our side. So,
EJ Lee.
is that who's going to be?
Yep.
Okay.
So-
So, we'll hopefully get all those individuals ready for the pregame show, and we'll get somebody out of Saskatchewan, probably, and we might have somebody from the Lions front office or TSN. So, we'll dial it all up.
Awesome. Very much looking forward to this. It's our third Western final in 4 years, but our first one in Saskatchewan. I'm jacked up. I can tell we're all jacked up. So thank you to you, the listeners. Thank you to Jordan Dowler-Coltman for producing this program. And a great job again with the great crowd and the great activations in the Western semifinal. We will talk next week. This has been First and Now. For those listening on the podcast, stick around. A little bonus for you coming up. All right. We wrap things up on the podcast, as always, by welcoming in Cam Tucker. Between the Lines, PlayNow.com, BCLC. Cam, first question. Have you got all your sleep back after staying up all night and monitoring those World Series games?
Oh my gosh, fellas. Yeah, it wasn't a lot of sleep the last week. I know we're gonna switch to football here in the next little bit, but what an exciting World Series. I mean, I was glued to the TV the whole time. And we even cut short some trick-or-treating on Friday night just to get back inside to watch the game. So it was quite exciting. But hey, the World Series is done and we got the West final and the East final coming up in the CFL playoffs. So it should be quite exciting this weekend.
All right, let's get on with it. First time in several weeks where we're talking about a Lions team that's an underdog. 3-point Saskatchewan favorite as of now.
Yeah, we've seen this line kind of go a little bit back and forth, 3 points, 3.5 points. And yeah, this is it now. This is a really interesting matchup. You've got the BC Lions who are red hot going up against the Saskatchewan Roughriders team that has kind of, had things in hand for the last 4 weeks, right? Haven't played a meaningful game in, close to a month. They've locked up the West. They get the rest and the bye week, and they were able to, as we saw in the final matchup of the season, rest some of their starters a little bit. And it's a really interesting matchup. The Lions are 1-2 against the Roughriders straight up this season. I think the first two games, you look at where the Lions were in their evolution, they obviously had a lot to work on. Nathan Rourke didn't play in the first meeting between these two teams. He played in the second game back at BC Place. And, the first matchup of the season between these two teams, the Lions couldn't stop the run game for Saskatchewan. Go to the second game of the season at BC Place. The Lions secondary couldn't stop the pass game for the Roughriders. But I would say that the BC Lions have certainly improved significantly on the defensive side of the ball this season as the season's gone along, and their offense continues to be the best offense in the CFL. So this is a really interesting matchup. I'm not surprised that the Lions are underdogs going into this game. You look at the environment that they're going to be playing in. It's a hostile environment. Saskatchewan was obviously the best team in the West Division this year, but they were really good at home too. So this is going to be a tough game for the Lions. The environment's going to be hostile. The weather is going to be cold, and it should be a really interesting matchup because you pit the best offense in the CFL up against the second-ranked defense in the CFL. So this is going to be a really interesting matchup, and I'm really interested to see how the Lions operate their offense. Saskatchewan doesn't give up much in the run game. They're a really good team defensively on second downs. So the BC Lions, what kind of game script are they going to go into this matchup with? It is really interesting. And fellas, looking at the weather reports for this week, I know you guys are all prepped and ready with your winter stuff. And the last check I had on the weather was -4 during the afternoon, dipping down to about -10 at night. And so that, if you add in a little bit of wind, there's going to be some extra bite in this game. So I'm really interested to see how this matchup plays out. The over-under is 53.5. And at those cold temperatures, I do start to wonder, are we going to see a really run-heavy defensive battle between these two teams? Saskatchewan right now, the under is 5-0 in the last 5 games. So you add in the weather element as well. I think that this is a really interesting matchup. And the Lions have been significantly better the second half of the season than they were in the first half. And they go into Regina as the hottest team in the CFL.
Cam, obviously this Lions offense revolves around Nathan Rourke. When looking at his performances against the Roughriders this season, what have you found out?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, we just talked about Saskatchewan not giving up much in the run game, but where they might have been susceptible at times in the season was in the pass game. And the BC Lions love to throw the football. They have the best passing attack in the CFL. And Nathan Rourke is obviously a massive reason for that. Looking at the numbers, the first game against Saskatchewan, he throws for 337 yards back at BC Place. They go into Regina needing a win to lock up home field in the first round of the playoffs. He throws for 368. And you look at both of those games, he has a total of 6 touchdown passes against Regina. Or against Saskatchewan. So if you look at this matchup, Nathan Rourke, we talked about this last week, is the X factor on offense. Like this is what puts teams over the top, is having that type of quarterback that is so dynamic, can make big plays. And I look at, the game against Calgary, that's not the Lions' best effort offensively. Very un-Nathan Rourke-like numbers in the pass game. Obviously, you had the big run. He scored a rushing touchdown, but zero touchdown passes. We don't see that from Nathan Rourke very often. I can't see that happening against Saskatchewan this weekend. And the other thing too is, when the Lions needed a big play, we talked all season about this big play offense. Well, when they needed a big play to set up the game-winning field goal with 3 seconds left, it's Nathan Rourke throwing an absolute dime to Justin McInnes that's your big gain. And Justin McInnis with the awareness to go down. Obviously, you stop the clock, kick the field goal, and you move on to the next week. I just think that when you have a player of Nathan Rourke's caliber, that is what can put your team over the top in a situation like this. And they're going to need this offense to be at their best. I don't know, looking at the run game, it's been a bit of a struggle lately. And then you look at how Saskatchewan has effectively taken away the run game for opposing offenses over the last few weeks. That's going to put a lot of pressure on Nathan Rourke, but I think he's certainly going to be up to the challenge, and he's been productive against the Roughriders this year.
Lastly, the bet boost, big game, Western Final. I know you're bringing your best, Cam. So what are you looking at this weekend?
Yeah, well, we just talked about it. Nathan Rourke. I think that we're going to look at some of his passing milestones. Maybe not so much passing yards, but definitely I'm interested to see, passing touchdowns. Maybe we'll go with 2+ passing touchdowns for Nathan Rourke, and then we'll probably tie this to a result. I would say, given the stakes, given the fact that there's a berth in the Grey Cup on the line in this game, we'll probably tie this to the money line. So I would look for Nathan Rourke 2+ touchdown passes and the BC Lions to win this game up at PlayNow later this week. And it should be a good game. I mean, this is what you play all season for, is to have this one shot to get into the Grey Cup. And I think this will be a really interesting matchup. This is a huge test for this team. And they have shown since September, they haven't lost a game since early September. That's pretty remarkable. I think that this is a big test for them. And I can't wait to see how this plays out.
Yeah, it will have been over 2 months since the last defeat in Ottawa. Listen, my friend, clutch as always. Always love the energy we bring, and let's go get some wins here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. Take care.
Cam Tucker wrapping up First and Now, a little between the lines. And we're back next week.